5 years after his wife left, single dad took his daughter to a cafe. Then he heard her voice. The bell above the cafe door chimed softly as Marcus pushed it open, his hand resting protectively on his daughter Emma's shoulder. The warm aroma of freshly brewed coffee and cinnamon rolls enveloped them as they stepped inside. A welcome reprieve from the cold February afternoon. "Can we sit by the window, Dad?" Emma asked, her green eyes bright with excitement. At 9 years old, she still found joy in the simple things, a trait Marcus was determined to preserve for as long as possible. "Anywhere you want, Princess," he said, guiding her toward a cozy corner booth. The cafe was new to their neighborhood, a charming little place with exposed brick walls, vintage photographs, and soft jazz playing in the background. Marcus had been meaning to try it for weeks, but today felt special. Today marked 5 years since everything changed, 5 years since Rebecca walked out. He pushed the thought away as Emma slid into the booth, already studying the menu with the intensity of a food critic. Marcus smiled despite the familiar ache in his chest. She had her mother's red hair, her mother's determination, but thankfully, not her mother's restlessness. "I think I want the hot chocolate," Emma announced. "With extra marshmallows. Is that okay?" "Extra marshmallows it is," Marcus agreed, settling into the seat across from her. He glanced around the cafe, noting the mix of students hunched over laptops, elderly couples sharing newspapers, and a young mother trying to manage twin toddlers near the counter. "I'll go order," he said, reaching for his wallet. "You stay here and guard our spot." Emma saluted him dramatically, making him chuckle as he stood and made his way to the counter. There was a short line, giving him time to study the chalkboard menu above the register. He was debating between a black coffee and a cappuccino when he heard it. A laugh, light, musical, achingly familiar. His blood turned to ice. Marcus turned slowly, his eyes scanning the cafe with the precision of a man searching for a ghost. And there, near the back, partially hidden behind a decorative plant, was a woman with auburn hair pulled into a loose bun. She was laughing at something her companion, a well-dressed man in his 50s, had said, her hand resting casually on the table between them. Rebecca. The world seemed to tilt. 5 years. 5 years of silence, of unanswered questions, of Emma asking why Mommy didn't love them anymore. 5 years of being both father and mother, of midnight fevers and first day of school photos, of teaching his daughter that she was enough, that she was loved, even if her mother had chosen to leave. And here Rebecca was in a cafe 3 miles from their home, looking relaxed and content, as if she hadn't shattered 2 lives when she'd walked away. Marcus's hands clenched into fists. His first instinct was to march over there, to demand answers, to ask how she could possibly justify abandoning her own child. But then he thought of Emma, sitting innocently in their booth, excited about hot chocolate with extra marshmallows. "Sir, can I help you?" The barista's voice pulled him back. He turned, realizing he'd reached the front of the line. His mind scrambled. "Hot chocolate with extra marshmallows and a black coffee. Large." "Sure thing. Name?" "Marcus." As the barista wrote on the cup, Marcus risked another glance toward the back. Rebecca was still there, still laughing, still oblivious to his presence. The man across from her leaned in closer, saying something that made her smile widen. Marcus paid, took his receipt, and returned to the booth on autopilot. Emma looked up from a drawing she'd started on a napkin, a stick figure family of 2. "Did you order?" she asked. "Yeah. They'll call us when it's ready." His voice sounded strange to his own ears, hollow and distant. Emma frowned slightly, her child's intuition sensing something was wrong. "Are you okay, Dad?" He forced a smile. "I'm fine, sweetheart. Just thinking about work." She seemed to accept this, returning to her drawing. Marcus couldn't stop himself from looking toward the back again. Rebecca had stood up, gathering her purse. The man with her rose as well, helping her with her coat in a gesture that spoke of familiarity, of intimacy. They were leaving. Marcus watched, paralyzed by indecision. Should he confront her? Should he let her go? What would he even say after 5 years of silence? But then Rebecca turned, laughing at something over her shoulder, and her eyes swept across the cafe and locked directly onto his. The color drained from her face. For a moment, they simply stared at each other across the crowded cafe. Two people who had once promised, forever now separated by years, of hurt in an ocean of unsaid words. Marcus saw shock in her expression, then what might have been shame or perhaps regret. "Rebecca?" the man beside her asked, noticing her sudden stillness. "Everything all right?" She didn't answer him. Instead, her gaze shifted slightly, landing on the booth where Marcus sat. Even from across the room, he could see the moment she registered Emma's presence. Her hand flew to her mouth. "Marcus?" Emma's voice cut through his daze. "Who's that lady?" "She's looking at us." His heart hammered. "No one, sweetheart, just..." But it was too late. Rebecca was walking toward them, her companion forgotten, her steps hesitant but deliberate. Marcus felt every muscle in his body tense. Not here, not now, not in front of Emma. Rebecca stopped a few feet from their booth, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "Marcus," she whispered, her voice breaking on his name. Emma looked between them, confusion clouding her young face. "Dad?" "Emma, honey, why don't you go check on our order?" Marcus said quickly, never taking his eyes off Rebecca. "But they said they'd call..." "Please, Emma." Something in his tone made her obey. Without further argument, she slid out of the booth and walked toward the counter, glancing back with worried eyes. Once she was out of earshot, Marcus stood, keeping his voice low and controlled. "What are you doing here, Rebecca?" I moved back 3 months ago." Her eyes darted toward Emma's retreating figure. "She's so big. She's so..." "You don't get to do this," Marcus said, his voice shaking with barely contained fury. "You don't get to show up and act surprised that our daughter grew up. You missed it. You chose to miss it." Rebecca flinched as if he'd struck her. I know, and I'm so sorry." "Sorry?" The word came out as a harsh laugh. "Do you have any idea what the last 5 years have been like? Do you know how many times she's asked about you? How many times I've had to explain that Mommy didn't leave because of anything she did?" Tears spilled down Rebecca's cheeks. "I was lost, Marcus. I was drowning and I couldn't..." "You couldn't stay. I remember." His jaw clenched. "But you could have called. You could have sent a letter, a birthday card, anything. Instead, you vanished like we never existed." "I couldn't face what I'd done," she whispered. "Every time I thought about calling, I imagined how much you both must hate me, and I couldn't. So you made it easier on yourself by making it harder on your daughter." Rebecca's face crumpled. "I want to make it right." "There is no making this right." Marcus glanced toward the counter, where Emma was watching them with wide, anxious eyes. "She doesn't even know who you are anymore." "Then let me..." "No." The word was final, absolute. "You made your choice 5 years ago. You don't get to unmake it because you finally decided you were ready." "Marcus, please." "Marcus, order for Marcus." The barista's call cut through their conversation. Marcus held Rebecca's gaze for one more moment, then turned away. He walked to the counter, took their drinks with hands that trembled slightly, and returned to Emma. "Let's go," he said gently. "But we haven't. We'll drink them in the car." Emma must have heard something in his voice because she didn't argue. She took her hot chocolate and followed him toward the door. As they passed Rebecca, who stood frozen in the middle of the cafe, Emma paused. "Are you crying?" she asked the strange woman, her voice filled with childish concern. Rebecca looked down at her, drinking in every detail of the daughter she'd abandoned. "I'm okay," she managed. You're beautiful." Emma smiled uncertainly, then hurried after her father. They were almost to the door when Rebecca called out, "Wait!" Marcus stopped, every instinct screaming at him to keep walking, to protect Emma from the inevitable hurt. But something in Rebecca's voice, a desperate, broken quality, made him turn. She was approaching slowly, as if Marcus were a wild animal that might bolt. "I don't expect forgiveness," she said, loud enough for only them to hear. "And I don't..." Expect another chance. But I need you to know that leaving you both was the worst mistake of my life. Not a day has passed that I haven't thought about you. Then why? The question tore from Marcus's throat before he could stop it. Why did you leave? Rebecca's eyes filled with fresh tears. I had postpartum depression. Severe. I was having dark thoughts, scary thoughts, and I was terrified of what I might do. My therapist said I needed intensive treatment. Maybe hospitalization, and I panicked. I thought you'd both be better off without me. The confession hung in the air between them. Marcus felt something in his chest crack open. Not forgiveness. Not yet. But perhaps the beginning of understanding. You should have told me, he said quietly. I would have helped you. I know that now. I've been in therapy for 4 years, Marcus. I'm better now, stable, and I came back because I couldn't live with the idea of never trying to fix what I broke. She looked at Emma, who was clutching her hot chocolate, and watching this exchange with increasing confusion. I don't expect to be her mother. I know I lost that right. But maybe someday I could be something, a friend, a presence in her life if you'll allow it. Marcus looked down at Emma, at the question in her eyes, at the innocence he'd fought so hard to protect. Then he looked back at Rebecca, at the woman who had once been his whole world and was now a stranger carrying the weight of irreversible choices. Emma, he said slowly, kneeling down to his daughter's level. This is Rebecca. She's someone I used to know. Someone important. Emma's brow furrowed. Rebecca? She tested the name, and Marcus saw the moment recognition sparked. Not memory, for Emma had been too young to remember, but the echo of stories told, of a name spoken in hushed, careful tones. Rebecca, like my mom? Marcus's throat tightened. Yes, sweetheart, like your mom. Emma stared at Rebecca with wide eyes, processing this revelation. Then, with the directness only a child could possess, she asked, Are you my mom? Rebecca nodded, tears streaming freely now. Yes, I am, or I was. I'm so sorry, Emma, I'm so sorry. Emma was quiet for a long moment, studying this woman who had been both absent and present in her life. Ghost made flesh. Finally, she said, You hurt my daddy. I did, Rebecca admitted. Very much. And you hurt me too, even though I don't really remember you. I know. Emma took a step closer, her small hand still wrapped around her hot chocolate. My teacher says everybody makes mistakes. She says what matters is if you try to fix them. She looked up at Marcus. Is she trying to fix her mistake, Dad? Marcus's vision blurred with sudden tears. His daughter, his brave, compassionate, brilliant daughter, was offering a perspective he'd been too hurt to see. I think she is, Emma. Emma nodded solemnly, then turned back to Rebecca. I don't know if I want you to be my mom again. Not yet. But maybe you could start by being my friend. Rebecca let out a sob that was half laugh, half cry. I would like that very much. Okay, Emma said matter-of-factly. But friends don't make each other cry. So you should probably stop being sad now. Despite everything, the pain, the anger, the years of abandonment. Marcus found himself smiling through his tears. Rebecca laughed too, wiping at her face. You're right, Rebecca said to Emma. Friends should be happy together. Emma considered this, then held out her hot chocolate. Do you want to try some? It has extra marshmallows. The simple gesture, the offering of something precious to a stranger-turned-friend, nearly broke Marcus. He watched as Rebecca accepted the cup with shaking hands and took a small sip. It's perfect, Rebecca whispered. I know, Emma said proudly. My dad always gets it right. The three of them stood there in the cafe doorway, neither inside nor outside, caught in a moment of tentative new beginnings. The man Rebecca had been with earlier appeared at her side, looking concerned and confused. Rebecca? He asked. Is everything all right? Yes, she said, never taking her eyes off Emma. Everything is finally right, she looked at Marcus. Thank you. For letting me speak to her. For not running. Marcus nodded slowly. This doesn't fix everything, Rebecca. We have a long way to go and I need time to process all of this. Emma needs time too. I understand. But Marcus took a deep breath, making a decision that terrified him. But maybe we could meet again, somewhere neutral. Give Emma a chance to get to know you if that's what she wants. Really? Hope blazed in Rebecca's eyes. Really? Emma piped up before Marcus could respond. But next time, can you not cry so much? It makes me sad too. Rebecca laughed, the sound watery but genuine. I'll try my best. They exchanged numbers, a surreal experience after 5 years of silence. As they finally left the cafe, Emma's hand secure in his, Marcus felt the weight of the past 5 years shift slightly. It didn't disappear and the hurt didn't magically heal, but something had changed. Dad? Emma asked as they walked to the car. Yeah, Princess? I'm glad we came to this cafe today. Marcus looked down at his daughter, at her resilient spirit and open heart, and felt a surge of overwhelming love. Me too, Emma, me too.